My name is Daphne Okanwa. I'm 28, and I do luxury laundry for a living. Yeah, laundry. In this city full of towering ambition, it might sound small, but I promise my story will make you laugh, cry, and maybe even believe in love again. It started on a humid Thursday morning. I had just finished delivering a clean batch of designer caftans and silk robes to one of my favorite clients, Madame Victoria Khalifa. The woman practically oozed wealth and elegance, with her diamond wristwatch and signature French twist. As I handed over the freshly pressed clothes, she reached into her bag and pulled out a thick envelope. "Madam, I think you gave me too much," I said, staring at the bundle of cash with wide eyes. She chuckled softly and patted my shoulder. "Consider it a tip, my dear. That stain on my Hermes scarf? Gone. You have magic hands." I smiled so hard it made my jaw ache. "Thank you, Ma. If you have more laundry, please call me anytime." She nodded warmly and walked me to the gate of her Banana Island mansion. The white and gold gate hissed shut behind me as I stepped onto the smooth pavement, my heart light and my pockets fuller than they'd been in weeks. "Rice and Miss Gloria's debt, here I come," I whispered to myself, glancing down at my wrinkled, pruny hands. They weren't smooth or soft, but they were mine, hands that had scrubbed, pressed, and survived. Before heading home, I stopped at Miss Gloria's corner store in Ikoyi. "Well, look who finally came to pay up," she said, raising an eyebrow. Her silver curls sat in a tight bun, and her massive hoop earrings swayed as she spoke. "Sorry, Ma," I said with a sheepish grin. "When I blow, you'll be the first person I buy a Benz for. Scout's honor." Miss Gloria scoffed. "Laundry won't buy you a Benz. You better marry rich." I chuckled, but her words stung. Not because they were cruel, but because they were commonly believed. Laundry women weren't supposed to dream big, but I did. After settling the debt and borrowing 2 tins of sardines, I crossed the street to my sister Naomi's flat in Dolphin Estate. Her easel was outside and she was painting under the shade of a hibiscus tree. "That face looks familiar," I teased as I peered at her canvas. "It's Miss Gloria," she said proudly. "She paid me to paint her." "You made her mold too small. Make it as big as an orange seed." We burst out laughing. Then I grew serious. "Has Jaden come home?" Naomi's face dropped. "He's inside, feverish. That stubborn boy took a job lifting crates at the market. I told him not to overwork himself." I dashed inside and found Jaden coughing under a thin blanket. "You've got a fever," I whispered, placing a hand on his burning forehead. "I'm fine," he croaked. "Don't waste money on me. Clinics cost too much." "Why'd you even go and take that job? You're saving for university." "I just wanted to help," he murmured. "You and Naomi do too much. When I get rich, I'll take care of everything." "You're only sweet like this when you're sick," I said, brushing his hair back gently. "I'll go buy medicine." No arguments. Our parents had died years ago. Since then, I'd become mother, father, breadwinner, and hope giver all in one. We lived in a crumbling flat that groaned every time someone shut the bathroom door. Still, we survived. The next morning, I was watering the dying bougainvillea by the gate when a shiny black Lexus purred to a stop in front of our building. I nearly dropped the watering can. "Madam Victoria?" I gasped as she stepped out in stilettos and pearls. "I'm not here for laundry today," she smiled. "I came to offer you something more delicate." She explained that a close friend of hers had just fired her maid, caught her stealing, and needed someone trustworthy. She lives in one of the Khalifa estates in Victoria Island. Very private, very high profile. I told her about you. I blinked. "Really? I'd be honored." "She'll pay double, weekends only, but she wants someone to start today." "I'll take it. Get dressed and hop in," she said, gesturing toward her luxurious vehicle. I changed quickly, heart pounding, and climbed into the chilled leather seat. The scent of jasmine and wealth filled the air. "One day, I'll have a car like this," I murmured. "But first, a house. Because what's a car if you've got no home?" We reached the estate in under 20 minutes. The mansion was a modern masterpiece, glass, concrete, and grandeur. As we approached the massive iron gate, A regal woman in an emerald green caftan stepped forward. "This is my dear friend, Madame Victoria Khalifa," Madame Victoria said. "Victoria, meet Daphne Okunwa, the laundry wizard." I smiled and greeted her with a respectful nod. "Good morning, Ma." "Lovely to meet you, Daphne," she said, her voice cool and refined. "Let's talk inside. It's far too hot out here." As we stepped into the grand foyer, I tried to keep my jaw from dropping. Gold-framed paintings, gleaming marble floors, and glass chandeliers greeted us. I counted 3 housekeepers moving like clockwork across the sprawling room. "Wow, this place looks like a museum," I blurted. Madame Victoria raised an eyebrow. "I mean, I've worked in lots of fancy homes," I said quickly. "This is just really lovely." "My sister Naomi paints too," I added. "Maybe you'd like to commission something?" "Maybe," she said, her expression softening. Soon a maid brought out pastries and fresh juice. I bit into a croissant and moaned. "This is not the bread we eat in Ikoyi. Those ones can break your teeth. This one's like a cloud." "I baked it myself," Madame Victoria replied. My eyes widened. You're amazing." She chuckled. "So Daphne, I live here with just my son. His name is Maurice." I tilted my head. "Where is he?" She didn't answer immediately. "We'll get to that." She rang a bell. Another maid appeared, short, straight black weave, thick brows, and bright red lipstick. "Carla, please show Daphne to the laundry room." "This way, Saint Marta," Carla said, walking off. "It's Daphne," I corrected gently. "Whatever." The laundry room was larger than our flat. Carla pointed out the machines and basins. "You can use the washers or do it old school. We don't care. Just don't screw it up." Her tone grated on me, but I smiled. "No problem. I'm used to loads." She opened a door and revealed mounds and mounds of clothes. I whistled. "That's enough to clothe a village." "Are you complaining?" she snapped. "Nope, just surprised." "Then get to work." She strutted off. As I got to scrubbing, I whispered to myself, "Smile, Daphne. Don't let her ruin your vibe. It's a launder love day." Suddenly, Carla returned, dumping more smelly clothes on me. "What's that smell?" I asked, gagging. "Wash it. It's mine." "Your clothes? Wash them yourself. I'm here for the Khalifas. You're paid, aren't you?" "Not to scrub your bad energy into my wash. Maybe clean your attitude first." She gasped. "How dare you?" I flipped my braid. "Just because I wash doesn't mean I'm anyone's mop." She stormed off. I resumed my scrubbing, humming again. Then footsteps approached once more. "If it's you again, I swear It's me," Madame Victoria said, amused. I spun around. "Oh, hi, Ma," she smiled. "I have a serious question for you." "Okay, just not math, please. What's your biggest dream?" I blinked. 2 things. First, I want my siblings to be happy. Second, I want to own a house, a real home. What if I told you I could make that happen?" I froze. "You're not joking?" "No, but it comes with a request." Madame Victoria Khalifa's voice softened, and her eyes clouded with something unspoken. "I have one son," she said, "Maurice. 5 years ago, he was in a horrific car accident. His fiancée didn't survive. He hasn't walked since, paralyzed, withdrawn, silent. My boy hasn't smiled in 5 years." Daphne's breath caught. "I've tried therapists, doctors, retreats. Nothing worked," Madame Victoria continued. "But the first time I met you, Daphne, I saw something else. Joy. Unshaken joy, even through hardship." Daphne shifted uncomfortably. "I'm not sure how that helps him." "I'm not asking you to fix his legs. I'm asking you to bring him back, to remind him he's still alive. If you can do that, I'll give you the house and lot I promised, plus capital to start your own business." Daphne stared, heart pounding. "You'd do that for me? For my family?" "I would, but it won't be easy. Maurice is difficult, bitter, sometimes downright cruel. But I believe in you." Daphne swallowed hard. Her mind flashed to Naomi and Jaden, their laughter, their struggles. This opportunity could change everything. I'll do it, she said quietly. For them, I'll try. Madame Victoria beamed. Thank you, Daphne. Just be patient with him. His pain runs deep, but I think you might be the one to reach him. She led Daphne up the marbled staircase to the second floor. Every step felt heavier than the last. Her hands trembled slightly as they reached a tall wooden door at the end of the hallway. This is Maurice's room, Madame Victoria said, knocking 3 times. From behind the door came a harsh voice. Not now, Mum. I said I want to be alone. Daphne flinched. Madame Victoria didn't hesitate. She pulled out a key and slowly opened the door. Daphne followed her in, peeking around the corner like a nervous intern on her first day. The room was dim, thick curtains drawn tight. In the corner sat a man in a sleek black wheelchair. His skin was pale, his face unreadable. He looked like a statue, beautiful but frozen. Maurice, Madame Victoria said gently, I brought someone to meet you. He didn't move. When she stepped aside, Daphne took a breath and walked in. He turned, startled, and the movement made the wheelchair shift. In a flash, he tried to stand, but his legs gave way. The chair rolled back, and he collapsed. Maurice! Madame Victoria rushed forward. Daphne darted over, grabbing his arm. His body was heavy, and for a moment, he resisted her help. Don't force yourself, Madame Victoria warned, helping him back into his seat. Calm down, sir, Daphne added softly. You've got a visitor. Maurice's eyes snapped to hers, intense, sharp, and filled with resentment. Who is she? I don't know her. Get her out. Daphne extended her hand with a bright smile. I'm Daphne Okunwa. Nice to meet you, Sir Maurice. He didn't take her hand. You want to impress someone? Give the man a jacket. 5,000 points, she said with a wink. Madame Victoria stifled a laugh. Maurice didn't. I'm not here to intrude, Daphne said, backing away slightly. Just to help. I don't want help, Maurice growled, especially not from a stranger. Well, Sir Maurice, Madame Victoria said firmly, Daphne will be staying here for a while. She'll assist with your daily care. Maybe she'll even be a friend. Don't force me, he snapped. I don't need a friend. Daphne looked around. This room is so dark, she said suddenly, and pulled back the thick curtains. Sunlight spilled into the room, bathing it in golden light. Maurice flinched as the sun touched his face. Close it, he barked. I didn't steal it, sir. Just moved it. Sunlight has vitamins. Then turn on the lights. That wastes electricity. I can pay the bill. Wow, rich boy. But being grumpy ages you. Wrinkles in 4K. I don't care how I look anymore, he muttered. All right, no need to scream. It's just a curtain. She pulled it halfway back in place. So what do you want to do today, sir? Eat? Walk? Oh, wait, sorry, bad joke. He glared at her. Don't want to play? You could use some sunlight, sir. Why are you so nosy? I just think, you've been in here for 5 years. Isn't it time to see the world again? What's the point? Will it bring back Lorraine? Daphne's face fell. Lorraine, my fiancée, she died. And it was my fault. He wheeled away toward the bed, his shoulders rigid. I'm sorry, Daphne said, but staying locked in here won't bring her back either. You don't know anything. You're right, I don't. But I lost my parents. I know grief, and I know that even if it breaks you, you have to keep moving. He slammed his fist on the armrest. I don't need your motivational speeches. Sir, she said gently, I'm just trying to help. I don't want your help. Fine, she crossed her arms. Struggle on your own then. He tried to transfer to the bed and failed miserably. After a moment of flailing, he sighed, defeated. Need help, sir? She asked smugly. Fine, help me. She grinned and assisted him into bed, tucking the covers over him. He stared at her face for a moment too long. Sir, I know I'm beautiful, she said, flipping her braid. Try not to stare too hard. I'm not staring because you're pretty. Then why? You've got a booger on your cheek. Her hand flew to her face. What? She darted to the mirror and screamed. It was true. From the hallway, Carla appeared smirking. Madame Victoria sent me to show you how to care for Sir Maurice. Daphne turned, mortified. Not now. Carla strutted in. Sir Maurice mostly sits or lies down. Help him move. Never leave him alone. And yeah, you'll be bathing him too. Bathing? Daphne choked. Like, full bath? Yes, Carla snapped. You're lucky you even get to touch him. Well, you sound jealous. Carla narrowed her eyes. If it were up to me, I'd have this job. Too bad it's not, Daphne replied, then turned to Maurice. Sir, it's 8 o'clock. Bath time. Maurice scowled. Where's Carla? Gone. I'm in charge now. I want her to do it. She's not. I am. And don't worry, sir. I'm not going to fall in love with you just because I bathe you. I don't care if you do. Great. Then let's get on with it. She helped him into the bathroom and gently positioned the chair. Strip, she joked. To her horror, he began undressing. Wait, I was kidding. She turned away flushed. You're bathing me, aren't you? He said flatly. I'm not used to. Get used to it. When she finally turned back, she kneeled to help remove his shorts, carefully avoiding looking too long at certain areas. Lord forgive me. This is just work, she muttered. Maurice smirked. You planning to worship that thing? Her eyes widened. Excuse me? She grabbed the soap and began scrubbing his chest, back, arms, legs, everything but the obvious. That's your department, sir, she said, handing him the soap. After the shower, she dried him and helped him into clean clothes. Did you enjoy it, sir? She teased. He didn't reply. You totally did, she grinned. She began drying his hair and to pass the time, sang softly. You have a nice voice, Maurice murmured. Really? If I were deaf, I'd like it more. You're so mean, she muttered. She turned the dryer to full power and aimed it at his face. Oops, sorry, sir, she smiled sweetly. Once he was dry and tucked into bed, she looked at him thoughtfully. You really don't want to try therapy? Even if I could walk again, I wouldn't leave this room. Why accept that? Because it's reality. But it doesn't have to be. You're meddling again. I'm just suggesting. Same thing. Fine, I'm meddling. He turned away. No more noise, I want to sleep. All right, bye, sir. As she stepped out, she found Madame Victoria waiting in the hallway. How did it go? He's incredibly grumpy, Ma, but I talked to him. I even made him respond a bit. You're remarkable, she said, smiling. I'm just keeping my promise. Come to the kitchen. I bake cupcakes. Daphne's eyes widened. Cupcakes? As someone who hadn't tasted a proper treat in 5 years, she nearly sprinted toward the scent of chocolate. The scent of vanilla and melted chocolate filled the air as Daphne entered the kitchen. Her eyes sparkled when she spotted the neat tray of freshly baked cupcakes on the marble island. Mini chocolate domes with glossy tops and gold-dusted sprinkles sat like treasures. I haven't had a cupcake in 5 years, Daphne whispered, eyes wide. Last one was on my birthday. Naomi and Jaden surprised me with one. They split into 3. Madame Victoria chuckled softly. Well then, eat up. You've earned it. Daphne didn't wait. She bit into the cupcake and closed her eyes, moaning exaggeratedly. Madam, is this what peace tastes like? Take some home to your siblings, Madame Victoria offered. Really? Daphne's voice lifted. Thank you. They'll lose their minds. We don't do treats like this often. Madame Victoria leaned on the counter, watching her. What happened to your parents? Daphne hesitated, licking frosting from her thumb. They passed away years ago. Car accident. Naomi was 16, Jaden just 10. Since then, it's been just us. I'm the eldest. So I stepped in. You became their mother and father. I did what I had to do, she said, voice softer. I never wanted them to feel like they were missing out on life just because ours changed. You're admirable, Daphne. Strong. Daphne shrugged, a little shy now. I just pushed myself for them. That's why your offer means everything. A house of our own? I can't describe what that would mean. Madame Victoria nodded slowly. Then make my son happy, and it's yours. Daphne smiled, wiping icing from her lip. Deal. The next morning, Daphne arrived earlier than usual, dressed in a fresh polo and fitted jeans. As she entered the hallway, she ran into Carla balancing a tray. That for Sir Maurice? Daphne asked. Carla sneered. Obviously. Or do you think I'm carrying breakfast for the plants? I'll take it, Daphne said, reaching out. Carla narrowed her eyes. First you're bathing him? Now this? What next? You want to massage his ego too? I'm in charge of his care now, Daphne replied calmly. Carla handed over the tray with a tight smile. Don't you go using your pretty face to seduce him? Daphne almost choked. Excuse me? For your information, there's something between us. Daphne stifled a laugh. Oh, sorry. I didn't realize he was your soulmate. You think I'm joking? Nope, I just don't care. He's mine. All yours, Carla. Tattoo it on your forehead if you want, Daphne said, walking off with the tray. She knocked gently on Maurice's door. No answer. She nudged the door open. Maurice was awake, sitting up, reading a worn copy of Time magazine. He looked over as she entered. Where's Carla? You're stuck with me today. Sorry, she said playfully, placing the tray beside him. You always this chipper. I always bring food with a smile. Now eat. I'm not hungry. Madame Victoria told me to make sure you eat, and on time. So yes, you are. He sighed and reluctantly picked up the spoon. Daphne watched him eat slowly. Stop staring at me. I'm not staring at you. I'm looking at soup. You've got a crush on me, don't you? He said bluntly. Daphne paused. Sir, you wish. Then without warning, she let out a loud, rumbling fart. Her eyes widened. Her hands flew to her mouth. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Maurice stared at her. Then he burst into laughter. Real, honest, uncontrollable laughter. He slapped the bed as he laughed, wheezing, gasping, shaking. Daphne was frozen. Sir, are you okay? That sounded like a motorcycle starting up, he cackled. I can't breathe. Her cheeks burned. Sir, stop laughing. It was a sweet potato. Maurice was still giggling. That's the first time I've laughed like this in 5 years. Daphne blinked. Not my jokes, not my sunshine speeches. My fart? He wiped his eyes. Maybe you're funnier when you're not trying. That night, Daphne boiled more sweet potatoes than medically advisable. Naomi caught her wolfing them down. What are you doing? My boss laughs at farts. I need more ammo. That's disgusting. It's called strategy. Can I have some? You want to fart too? No, I'm just hungry. They both laughed. The next morning, Daphne returned to the mansion with purpose. She rolled Maurice's breakfast into the room. Good morning, Sir Maurice. You're so loud, he groaned. Do you come with a mute button? Nope. Start your morning with a smile, sir. Grumpiness gives wrinkles. I don't have wrinkles. Yet, but you're working on them. He opened his mouth to argue, but she shoved a spoon of stew into it. You were saying? She smirked. You're plotting something. Who? Me, she said innocently. She held her breath, waiting. Then, pfft. Another fart echoed through the room. She grinned expectantly. Maurice covered his nose. What the hell? You don't like it? I like the sound, not the smell. What did you eat? Just love and protein. He gagged. Open the window. But you said you hated sunlight. If I don't, I'll suffocate. She flung open the curtains and window, laughing. Daphne. Yes, sir? You're disgusting. Thank you, sir. I do my best. Maurice shook his head, trying to suppress a smile. As she turned to head to the bathroom, he called after her. Wait. She stopped. Yes? Thank you. For what? For trying, for not giving up, and for being the most chaotic breath of fresh air I've had in years. Daphne felt her chest tighten. She gave him a small smile. Any time, sir. Daphne stood at the center of Maurice's spacious room, her arms crossed as he flipped through the channels on his TV, clearly bored but pretending not to be. Sir, she said, sweeping the marble floor around his wheelchair, let's play a game. Maurice raised a brow. This isn't kindergarten. It's not a kiddie game. Promise. Fine. What is it? She pulled out a small bottle of moisturizer and plopped down on the plush rug. Spin the bottle. Maurice laughed dryly. Seriously? Whoever it lands on picks truth or dare. You know the drill. And why would I agree? Because you've been stuck in this room watching boring cable news for 5 years. Trust me, this is better. He sighed, reluctantly rolling his chair to face her. Just one round. Yes, she clapped, spinning the bottle between them. It pointed toward the side of the bed. Oh, it landed on the bed, she grinned. Guess it has to reveal its secrets. Maurice smirked. Give it a dare. Talk to the curtains. Beg them for light. Maurice laughed under his breath. She spun again. This time it pointed at Daphne. Truth or dare, he asked. Truth. He leaned back, folding his arms. Have you ever been in love? Daphne blinked. Whoa, we're jumping straight into the deep end, huh? He didn't respond, only waited. No, she admitted. Only harmless crushes. Never the real thing. Why not? Because I don't exactly live a life that lets me entertain emotions. Plus, heartbreak? Not on my to-do list. Maurice studied her, his expression unreadable. Your turn, she said, spinning again. It landed on him. Truth, he said flatly. What happened with you and Lorraine? She asked gently. His shoulders stiffened, but he didn't lash out. He looked down instead. We were childhood friends, he said quietly. Our mums were best friends, so we spent weekends together. Holidays, too. I loved her before I even knew what love meant. When I finally confessed, she smiled and said, It's about time. He smiled bitterly at the memory. She wanted to work abroad after we got engaged. I got scared. I told her not to go. Daphne sat perfectly still, listening. She got angry. We argued in the car. She said I was holding her back. She tried to get out, but I wouldn't let her. We kept fighting. Then the truck hit us. His voice cracked. She died, angry, and I never got to say sorry. Silence fell. Daphne's throat tightened. I'm so sorry, sir, she whispered. He glanced up, and to her surprise, his eyes shimmered. You're the first person I've said this to. Not even Mom knows all of it. Daphne scooted closer and gently wrapped her arms around him. For a second, he froze, but then let himself be held. It wasn't your fault, she murmured. You were young, afraid, human. I still see her face, hear her voice, every night. Maybe that means she's still close, still watching. He looked up. And if she is, she'd want you to live, Maurice, not just exist. He exhaled shakily. You always talk like you know everything. I don't, but I know pain and how it eats you if you don't talk about it. Maurice blinked hard, then nodded. Thank you, Daphne. Their eyes met. Something flickered. Spin again, he said, voice raspier now. She obeyed. The bottle pointed at her again. Maurice smirked. Dare. I didn't pick yet. You were going to choose dare anyway. Fine, she grinned. What is it? I dare you to dance. Dance? She laughed. In front of you? No music? Exactly. She stood up dramatically and began a clumsy mix of hip-hop and ballet, throwing in ridiculous spins and exaggerated twirls. Maurice tried to look unimpressed but failed. He burst into laughter. You're a disaster, he said between gasps. But a funny one. Is this what you do at home? No, at home I sing to laundry baskets. Maurice leaned back and shook his head, still smiling. Daphne sat again, brushing hair from her face. Okay, your turn. I'm scared. You should be. Truth or dare? Truth. She paused, then said softly, Do you think you'll ever love again? Maurice stared at her, visibly thrown. He didn't answer for a long time. I don't know, he finally said. Maybe I already do. Daphne blinked. Oh, don't read into it. Right, totally not reading into anything, she said, heart thumping. They sat quietly, a strange electricity buzzing in the silence. I'm glad we played this game, he said finally. Me too. A knock interrupted the moment. Carla's voice followed. Madame Victoria wants to see Daphne. Urgently. Maurice frowned. You okay? Daphne nodded. I'll be right back. As she left the room, her stomach twisted. Something told her this wouldn't be good. Daphne's sneakers echoed against the marble floor as she followed Carla down the hallway. Her heart thudded, not from fear, but from the uncertain weight of whatever conversation lay ahead. Madame Victoria Khalifa sat in the formal sitting room, a tray of untouched tea in front of her. She didn't smile when Daphne entered. You called for me, Ma? Daphne asked, keeping her tone respectful, as she sat lightly on the edge of a velvet armchair. Yes, sit properly, please. Daphne adjusted her posture, hands neatly folded in her lap. Do you remember why I brought you here, Daphne? She nodded. Yes, Ma. You asked me to help Sir Maurice smile again, to bring him back to life. And you did, Madame Victoria replied evenly. I'm grateful. Daphne tilted her head. But, Madame Victoria's eyes narrowed slightly. But lately you've been overstepping. Daphne's brows furrowed. Overstepping how, Ma? You were seen holding his hand in the garden. He bought you a bracelet, one meant for couples. And I've noticed the way you look at each other. Daphne opened her mouth, then shut it again. It wasn't my intention. You weren't hired to fall in love with my son, Madame Victoria said sharply. You were hired to help him heal. Daphne swallowed hard. I didn't plan any of that, Ma. I believe you, Madame Victoria said, her voice softening slightly. But it happened anyway, and now it must stop. Daphne felt the lump rising in her throat. She looked down at her bracelet, the one Maurice had given her. Her fingers brushed over it slowly. If you still want the house, the land, the business capital, then remember your place. You are a helper, nothing more. Daphne nodded stiffly. I understand. Madame Victoria stood. You're a good girl, Daphne, but don't make the mistake of thinking you belong in our world. Daphne didn't respond. She rose, bowed slightly, and walked out of the room with quiet dignity. But the moment she stepped into the corridor, her vision blurred. Carla, who had clearly been listening at the doorway, smirked. Well, she said sweetly. Turns out you're not the princess of Banana Island after all. Daphne didn't respond. She brushed past Carla and headed straight to Maurice's room, trying hard to steel herself. When she entered, he turned from the window, a smile on his face. You're early, he said. Miss me already? She didn't answer. Daphne? He asked, rolling closer. I came to check on you, she said softly. He immediately noticed something was off. What's wrong? Nothing, she said, her voice almost a whisper. I just wanted to say we need to keep our distance. Maurice's smile faded. What? She bit her lip. Your mom reminded me why I'm here, to help you heal, that's all. That's not all we are, he said, wheeling toward her. Don't do this. I'm just your helper, sir. That's all I'll ever be. She turned away, blinking back tears before he could see them fall. I'll see you later. Maurice didn't call after her. That night, Daphne walked home through the humid streets of Ikoyi, the city's traffic sounds fading behind her. She clutched the bracelet tightly, her fingers trembling. When she reached their tiny flat, Naomi opened the door. 8, she said, using her childhood nickname. What happened? I'm fine. You're not. I said I'm fine, Naomi. She went to her room and curled up under the thin blanket. Silent tears soaked her pillow. At the Khalifa estate, Maurice sat for hours by the window, eyes fixed on the empty chair where Daphne usually sat to fold his clothes and tell her silly jokes. Her absence left a void so sharp he could barely breathe. Days passed. She still showed up, performed her duties, fed him, bathed him, dressed him, but said almost nothing. "Why are you so quiet?" Maurice asked one morning. "I'm just focused on work, sir." "Did my mother talk to you?" No response. "She did, didn't she?" "I don't want to cause trouble," Daphne whispered. "You're not," he said firmly. "I told you I love you, didn't I?" "That's the problem," she said, avoiding his gaze. "You're not supposed to fall in love with me." "Says who?" "Your mother, society, reality." "I don't care about any of that." "Well, I do." "Do you love me?" I don't know." "That's not a no." "I have to go," she said, turning to leave. But he caught her wrist. "Don't walk away like that." She didn't look back. That evening, Daphne submitted her resignation letter to Madame Victoria. "You're quitting?" Madame Victoria asked, genuinely surprised. "Yes, Ma. Thank you for everything, but it's best I leave." "You don't want the house anymore? Or the money?" "I just want peace." "I'll still pay you for the time you've worked." "You did what I asked." You made him smile again. "Thank you." Daphne bowed her head. "Goodbye, Ma." As she walked out of the mansion, she looked back only once. Just once. Then she kept walking. Back to her old life, back to washing, folding, surviving. She rejected all jobs near the Khalifa estate, quietly avoiding their orbit. She held the bracelet at night, pressing it to her chest in silence. One evening, Naomi sat beside her on the bed. "You're punishing yourself." "I'm doing the right thing." "By hurting yourself?" "I fell for someone I can't have, Naomi. What choice do I have?" "You were the reason he started living again." "Doesn't that count for something?" Daphne didn't respond. Meanwhile, at the mansion, Maurice was growing restless. "Where's Daphne?" he asked his mother for the 5th time. "She left of her own will," Madame Victoria replied calmly. "No, she didn't. You pushed her away." I reminded her of her place. "She wasn't just a helper," he snapped. "She was my friend, the only one who made me feel alive again." "I was protecting you." "From what?" he asked. "From love?" Madame Victoria didn't answer. She simply walked away. Maurice wheeled himself into his room, staring at the empty corner where Daphne's chair used to sit. He opened the drawer and pulled out the couple bracelet. "I miss you," he whispered. He hadn't cried in years. Until now. It was late afternoon in Ikoyi. The sun cast golden slants through the curtain of the Okanwa flat, where the soft hum of a fan did little to stir the heavy air. Daphne sat at the edge of the bed, folding uniforms for a school nearby, her face blank, her movements mechanical. She hadn't smiled in days. She hadn't let herself. A soft knock sounded at the door. Naomi opened it and gasped. Madame Victoria Khalifa stood at the threshold, dressed in a navy blue silk blouse and cream pants, holding a small handbag and a paper bag in her hands. "Good evening," she said. Daphne looked up, startled. "Ma'am?" "I came to speak with you." Naomi stepped back, uncertain. "Please," Madame Victoria said gently. "May I come in?" Daphne nodded and cleared space on the couch. The older woman sat, poised as always, but her face was different, less proud, more worn. She offered the paper bag. "I brought red velvet cupcakes, from the same batch you liked." Daphne hesitated. "Why are you here, ma'am?" Madame Victoria sighed. "To say thank you." Daphne blinked. "For what?" "For bringing my son back. You did more than I ever could. You healed him in ways no therapist, no doctor ever managed. He's laughing again. He's alive again. Because of you." Daphne's eyes dropped to the floor. "I was wrong to push you away," Madame Victoria continued. "I was scared. I didn't want him to get hurt again. But in trying to protect him, I hurt both of you." "Ma," Daphne's voice cracked. "I'm sorry." There was silence, soft and raw. "He misses you." she added quietly. He asks about you every day. He hasn't been the same since you left. Daphne swallowed hard. I miss him too, but I can't go back to being seen as someone who doesn't belong. You do belong. I see that now. More silence. Then Madame Victoria said, come visit him, one last time. If not for him, then for yourself. You both deserve closure. Daphne hesitated. Naomi gave her a subtle nod from across the room. I'll go, Daphne whispered. That afternoon they drove back to the Khalifa estate in quiet tension. The luxury didn't hit her the way it once did. Her hands stayed clasped in her lap, her heart pounding harder with every turn of the tires. At the gates, she hesitated before stepping out. Inside, the mansion was still and serene. She followed the familiar path up the stairs. Every footstep sounded louder than she remembered. At his door, she paused. The smell of his room, the faint mix of mint soap and cologne, wafted through the wood. She knocked once. Come in, came his voice, low, tired. She opened the door slowly. Maurice sat by the window in his wheelchair, his back to her. He turned. Their eyes met. Daphne, he breathed. She stepped inside. Hi, Sir Maurice. Where have you been? Around. I've been looking for you. I know. I've been miserable. I know, she whispered again, her eyes glistening. He wheeled toward her, stopping inches away. You left without saying goodbye. I thought it was for the best. You were wrong. I know that now. He reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. I love you, he said, and I don't care who knows it. She blinked rapidly, tears threatening to fall. I love you too. Will you stay? He asked, his voice trembling. Only if your mother allows it. She already did, he said with a smile. A beat passed, and then he reached up and cupped her face. For the first time, gently, softly, he kissed her. The room, once dim and heavy, suddenly felt warm and light. Like home. When their lips parted, she whispered, I never stopped loving you. He leaned his forehead against hers. Then don't leave again. I won't. Outside the room, Madame Victoria stood quietly at the top of the stairs, wiping a tear from her cheek. For the first time in years, her son was whole. The next morning felt different. Daphne woke up before sunrise, the Lagos skyline still asleep beyond the curtain of her small bedroom window. But something inside her was already wide awake, hope. Not the fragile kind she'd once carried around like an invisible shield, but a steady glowing one. The kind that had a name now, Maurice. Naomi peeked into her room, groggy-eyed. You're up early. Daphne smiled as she buttoned her best white blouse. I'm going back. Naomi blinked. To the Khalifa mansion. Daphne nodded, tying her hair into a neat puff. He asked me to stay. And you said yes? I said yes. Naomi rushed forward and pulled her into a tight hug. I'm so proud of you. Daphne chuckled. Careful. I ironed this shirt 3 times. An hour later, the Khalifa mansion loomed before her again, no longer intimidating, but somehow familiar. Carla opened the gate, clearly stunned. You're back? Hello, Carla. Lovely weather, huh? Daphne said with a smug grin as she walked past. Carla's jaw twitched. Inside, Madame Victoria waited in the foyer. She looked up from her tablet as Daphne approached, and a rare, soft smile broke across her face. Welcome home. Daphne's eyes widened. Home? Madame Victoria stepped forward. If it's all right with you, I'd like to think of this place as yours too. Daphne blinked, her voice caught in her throat. Thank you, Ma. Go on upstairs. He's waiting. She didn't have to be told twice. Upstairs, Maurice was already dressed, sitting by the window in a navy cardigan and gray sweats, his wheelchair parked beside a tray of breakfast that had clearly gone untouched. He turned as she entered and smiled. Right on time. I thought you didn't eat breakfast, she said playfully, walking over. I was waiting for you. Thought maybe it'd taste better if you were here. Oh, please, she said, rolling her eyes as she began rearranging the tray. You mean you needed someone to butter your bread? Maybe, she laughed, then paused. He was smiling, genuinely, and not just that. His eyes were brighter, the lines around his mouth less tense. Sir, are you okay? I haven't been okay in years, he said honestly, but I'm getting there. And I think it's because of you. She froze, hand on the juice glass. I want us to try, Daphne, he continued. Not just this friendship, but more. I'm ready, if you are. She slowly put the glass down. You're sure? Because I'm not like you. I don't come from money or reputation. I have two siblings who depend on me. I don't own a single designer shoe. My idea of luxury is buying sardines without borrowing credit. I don't care, he said. I do, she replied. Not because I think I'm less, but because I know how people like Carla look at girls like me, like I don't belong in places like this. Maurice wheeled closer. You made this place feel alive again. Do you know that? Even Mum says so. The house was a museum before you. You mean the kind with creepy security guards and weird silence? Exactly. She smiled, but her eyes shone. If we do this, he said, we do it together. Slowly, but seriously. No hiding, no pretending. Daphne took a deep breath. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out her bracelet, the one he gave her, the one she'd never stopped wearing. She slid it back on her wrist. We already match, remember? He grinned. Perfect. They spent the morning talking about small things, books, music, meals they missed. Daphne introduced him to her favorite Nollywood actors. He laughed when she impersonated them. They bickered over jollof rice recipes and laughed until their stomachs ached. Later that day, Daphne pushed his wheelchair into the garden, under a shady mango tree. I forgot how green this place is, he said. That's because you've been locked away like a Disney prince waiting to be rescued. He narrowed his eyes. Did you just call me a prince? A grumpy one, she teased, who smells like expensive shampoo. I'll take it. She bent to pluck a tiny flower from the grass and tucked it behind his ear. You're ruining my bad boy image, he muttered. No, I'm softening the edges. Maurice caught her hand as she reached for a second flower. Thank you, he said, voice quieter now. For what? For showing up, every day, even when I didn't deserve it. For fighting with me, for fighting for me. Daphne swallowed. It wasn't easy. You were a bit of a tyrant. A handsome tyrant. She nodded solemnly. The handsomest. They laughed again, and something warm spread between them. Not flirtation, not pity, but trust, and maybe finally, a beginning. The skies over Victoria Island had turned gray. Daphne stood in the Khalifa mansion kitchen, humming as she stirred a pot of ogbono soup. The smell of smoked fish and ground crayfish filled the air, curling through the hallways like a memory from home. Carla walked in, paused, and wrinkled her nose. Smells like poverty. Daphne didn't flinch. That's the smell of love, Carla. Something you probably don't recognize. Carla scoffed and strutted away. Daphne smiled to herself, but her hands shook slightly as she sprinkled in a pinch of salt. Her peace still felt fragile, even with Madame Victoria warming up to her, even with Maurice smiling every morning, even with the house starting to feel like hers. Later that afternoon, she carried the food tray upstairs and gently pushed open Maurice's door. He was sitting by the bookshelf, reading Things Fall Apart, his wheelchair angled toward the window. Lunch is here, she announced. Just in time. I was about to chew on the bookmark. She laughed and rolled the table closer. As he ate, she sat by his side, sipping malt and flipping through a fashion magazine someone had left on the coffee table. I can't picture you reading that, Maurice said between spoonfuls. I dream, she said. I may scrub clothes for a living, but one day I'll wear something from this page. You already do, he said. You wear dreams. They look good on you. She glanced at him, caught off guard. You're getting smooth, sir. I'm just being honest. They smiled, the quiet between them easy now. But that quiet shattered with a sudden voice from the door. "Am I interrupting?" Daphne's head snapped toward the entrance. A woman stood there, tall, slender, wrapped in a beige dress that screamed Lagos Elite. Her makeup was flawless, her heels sharp, her eyes colder than glass. "Delilah," Maurice said, his voice darkening. Daphne blinked. "Who?" "My cousin," he said dryly. "By blood, by drama." Delilah strode into the room, ignoring Daphne completely. "I just flew in from Abuja. Thought I'd drop by and see how the invalid's doing." "Still alive," Maurice said, "but clearly not dead enough to stop uninvited guests." Delilah turned to Daphne, her eyes scanning her like a barcode. "You must be the laundry girl." Daphne stood straighter. "Actually, it's Daphne, and I'm not just a laundry girl." "Oh," Delilah said, smirking. "You're also the helper who thinks she's girlfriend material?" Maurice's jaw tightened. "Leave her out of this." "She's already in it," Delilah said sharply. "Your mother told me everything. The help falls in love with the heir. It's like one of those tacky TV shows." Daphne clenched her fists. "You don't even know me." "I know enough," Delilah sneered. "Girls like you are everywhere, polished just enough to slip into our circles, but never enough to stay." "Delilah," Maurice said, his voice low and hard. "Get out." Delilah laughed bitterly. "You think this is real? You think love can survive the nonsense of class, legacy, and scandal? You're dreaming, cousin." "I'd rather dream with her," Maurice replied, "than live a nightmare with you." Delilah's eyes narrowed. "Suit yourself." She turned on her heels and exited without another word. Daphne stood frozen for a moment, trying to catch her breath. "I'm sorry," Maurice said. "She always does this." "She's not wrong," Daphne whispered. "I don't belong here." He turned sharply. "Don't you say that. It's not just your mother, Maurice, or Carla. Now your family too? How long before someone else shows up and reminds me I'm just the laundry girl? You're not just anything." She stepped back. "I've lived my whole life knowing my place, and for a second, I thought I could step out of it. But maybe I was wrong." Maurice wheeled toward her. "Daphne, I need air." She rushed down the hallway, her breath hitching, the walls suddenly too tight around her. Out in the garden, the wind had picked up. The gray clouds above were thick now, rumbling. She collapsed onto a stone bench and let herself cry. Not because of Delilah's words, but because of how much she wanted this love to be enough. Minutes passed before she felt a blanket being draped around her shoulders. She looked up. "Maurice." "Sorry," he said, his voice hoarse. "I should have thrown her out sooner." Daphne sniffed. "You can't control your family." "No, but I can fight for you." She looked at him. "I love you, Daphne, and if you'll have me, truly, fully, I want to build something with you. Even if the world whispers behind our backs, let them whisper," he said. "I'm done living in silence." She took a long breath and nodded, then rested her forehead against his. And in the heart of a storm, they found peace again. The rain poured all night. It clattered on the rooftop of the Khalifa mansion, soaking the terrace, washing the dust from the marble walkways below. Inside, everything felt still, except for the fire burning quietly between Daphne and Maurice. By morning, the sun broke through the clouds like a quiet promise. Daphne woke early and padded barefoot through the halls toward Maurice's room. She found him awake, dressed in a black long-sleeve shirt and gray joggers, his wheelchair turned toward the window, a cup of black coffee untouched on the tray beside him. He looked like he'd been thinking for hours. "Good morning," she said softly. He turned. "I had a dream last night." "Oh?" "I was walking. Not in a fantasy way, just walking, like I used to. I could feel the floor beneath my feet." Daphne sat beside him, intrigued. "I think I want to try," he whispered. Her eyes widened. "You mean physical therapy?" He nodded. "I know I said I wouldn't, that I'd accepted my fate, but I haven't, Daphne. I just gave up." You were protecting yourself, she said, but maybe now you're ready. I don't want to sit in this chair for the rest of my life if I don't have to. And if there's even a small chance, there is, she said, squeezing his hand. I believe that. I believe in you. He looked at her, eyes glassy. Will you come with me? To therapy? He nodded. She smiled. Try stopping me. That afternoon, Madame Victoria made the call. By the next day, a private therapist arrived at the estate, Mr. Daramola, a tall, salt and pepper man with the calm energy of someone who'd seen 1,000 battles and helped win most of them. He greeted Maurice with quiet respect, then turned to Daphne. I've heard about you. Oh no, she muttered. It's all good, he said, smiling. You're part of why he's finally trying. Daphne sat on the couch as the first session began. Mr. Daramola began with simple stretches, helping Maurice move his legs manually, encouraging him to respond to pressure and resistance. Maurice groaned. Sweat broke along his forehead. Daphne stood and grabbed a towel, dabbing gently at his brow. Still with us, sir? She teased. Barely. You're doing amazing. The session continued for nearly 2 hours. By the end of it, Maurice's face was pale with exhaustion, but his eyes were lit up in a way Daphne hadn't seen before. That was hard, he muttered. But you did it, she said. You showed up. You fought. You didn't see me 5 minutes ago begging him to let me stop. I saw a man trying to walk again. She leaned down and kissed his forehead. And for the first time, Maurice didn't look like a man broken by the past. He looked like a man building a future. The sessions became regular, twice a week, sometimes 3. Each one left him sore, frustrated, and humbled, but he never skipped, and Daphne never left his side. One afternoon, after an especially difficult set of balance drills, Maurice asked Daphne to take him outside. They rolled to the edge of the garden, where a stone path led to the gazebo. I want to try standing, he said suddenly. Daphne blinked. Here. I just want to feel the ground. Oh, she nodded. He gripped the metal bars of his chair and pressed down with trembling arms. She stepped behind him instantly, hands hovering around his waist. He rose slowly, his legs wobbly, useless, but not numb. Okay, he whispered, eyes wide. He was half standing, leaning heavily on the arms of the chair. Daphne's breath caught. I'm not doing much, he said with a laugh. You're doing everything, she whispered. He slumped back down, exhausted, sweat dotting his temples. But the grin on his face, it stayed. Daphne sat beside him and took his hand. Do you want to know the truth? Always. I was scared, she admitted, that one day you'd walk and leave, that once you healed, I'd become a part of your past. Maurice turned to her, eyes burning. Never. You are my future. She smiled. Say it again. He kissed her hand. You are my future, Daphne Okunwa, and I'm not going anywhere. The mansion buzzed with energy. It was the annual Khalifa Foundation Charity Gala, an event that filled the marble halls with Lagos elites, reporters, and flashing cameras. Gold chandeliers dripped light from the high ceilings, and servers floated by with trays of champagne and small chops. But Daphne was tucked away in a quiet corner of the upstairs hallway, watching from above. She wore a floor-length emerald green gown, borrowed from Madame Victoria's closet, with her hair curled and pinned to the side. Her makeup was soft, elegant, yet she couldn't shake the feeling that she didn't belong. Downstairs, Carla mingled effortlessly with guests, her laughter echoing under the chandeliers. Delilah was there too, sipping wine and glancing at her Rolex every 10 seconds. I should have stayed home, Daphne muttered. No, came a voice behind her. You should be exactly where you are. She turned. Maurice sat in his wheelchair, dressed in a black tuxedo, the jacket perfectly tailored, his tie slightly crooked. His eyes met hers and warmed instantly. You look. He trailed off, then shook his head. No, words won't do it. She smiled faintly. You look good too, sir. Sir? Habit. He wheeled closer. You okay? I just don't want to embarrass you tonight. You couldn't if you tried. Down below, a microphone screeched slightly, drawing the crowd's attention. Madame Victoria stepped onto the stage, her gown shimmering beneath the lights. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight as we raise funds to support spinal injury rehabilitation across Nigeria. This foundation means a great deal to me, and to my son Maurice. Applause. Daphne clapped gently. But this year's gala is special, Madame Victoria continued, because it marks a new beginning for our family and for one man in particular. She turned toward the staircase. Daphne froze. Maurice took a breath and nodded to the two staff members waiting behind him. They moved to either side of him and steadied his arms. What are you doing? Daphne whispered. Walking, he said simply. Her eyes widened. The crowd turned, one slow step, then another. Maurice held the handrails as he began his descent, every muscle in his face tight with concentration. Silence fell. Even the waiters stopped moving. One step, two, three. Then finally, he stood at the base of the stairs, and the room erupted. Applause thundered through the hall. Some people stood. Others gasped or clapped with tears in their eyes. Daphne stood frozen at the top, her hands covering her mouth, her eyes full. Maurice took the microphone. Good evening, he began. His voice was calm, steady, strong. 5 years ago, I lost more than my legs. I lost hope. I shut myself away. I convinced myself that joy, movement, and love were all things of the past. He looked up, his eyes finding Daphne's. But someone came into my life. A woman who scrubbed floors and folded shirts like they were woven in gold, who cracked jokes even when I threw tantrums, who made me laugh at the sound of her farts. Laughter rippled through the crowd. And more than anything, she reminded me that healing begins in the heart, he continued. Daphne Okunwa, please come down here. She shook her head slightly, lips trembling, but the room turned to look at her. He extended a hand. She moved, slowly, carefully, down the stairs. As she reached him, he took her hand and kissed it. This is the woman who saved me, he said into the mic. Not a doctor, not a therapist, a laundry girl from Ikoyi. Gasps, whispers. He didn't flinch. She didn't just bring back my smile. She gave me a reason to want tomorrow. And today, in front of everyone, I want to say something that shouldn't need approval. He turned to Daphne and handed the microphone to an aide. Then he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Daphne's breath caught. He opened it slowly, revealing a delicate gold ring. I may not be able to dance yet, but I can walk toward a future. With you. Daphne, will you marry me? The crowd held their breath. Daphne choked on a sob and nodded. Yes, 1,000 times yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger and kissed her deeply. The room broke into applause again. Madame Victoria, standing just off stage, wiped her eyes. And Delilah? She turned away and muttered something into her wineglass. Later that night, as the guests filtered out and the music faded, Daphne and Maurice sat together on the garden bench beneath the same mango tree where he first tried to stand. Are you scared? He asked softly. She leaned against him. No, I'm home. He smiled. Me too. And as the stars blinked to life above them, Daphne finally understood. Love didn't care where you came from. It cared only that you stayed, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. 9 months later, the white villa in Banana Island stood tall, wrapped in soft ivy, its high glass windows catching the Lagos sunlight and scattering it like diamonds on the marble porch. Inside, laughter echoed down the hallway. Maurice sat in his wheelchair, though these days he only used it sparingly. His legs were stronger now, more stable. His walking frame leaned against the wall like a patient sidekick. He sat at the breakfast island, wearing a white cotton t-shirt and soft gray sweatpants, scrolling through an email on his tablet. On the counter in front of him was a mug that read, "Grumpy but taken." From the living room, soft baby coos rose. "Daphne," he called out, pretending to be stern, "your daughter is crying. I think she wants her morning audience." "I'm coming, Your Highness," Daphne replied, her voice floating from the nursery. Moments later she appeared, barefoot, radiant, her curls piled into a messy bun, and her satin robe slightly stained with formula. In her arms was a chubby-cheeked baby wrapped in a yellow onesie that read, "Little Miracle." "There she is," Maurice said, his voice instantly softer as he reached out. Daphne walked over and placed the baby in his arms. "Her Majesty has arrived." He cradled the baby gently. "Morning, Princess. Did you sleep well? Or were you up all night training to take over the world?" The baby gurgled and blinked up at him, then promptly drooled on his shirt. "Ah," Maurice said. "Anointing." Daphne laughed and leaned over to kiss both of them on the forehead. "You're both spoiled." "You made us this way," Maurice teased. She leaned against the counter and grabbed a slice of warm bread from the tray beside him. "Did you see the headlines?" "I did," he said. "From wheelchair to wedding bells, Maurice Khalifa's love story inspires a nation." "And the other one," Daphne added, raising a brow. "Laundry girl marries billionaire heir. Dream or scandal?" Maurice rolled his eyes. "Let them talk. While they're writing articles, we're building an empire." She grinned. "Speaking of, your mother's calling at 10. We're reviewing the designs for the new rehabilitation center." "Already set a reminder." "And don't forget," she added, "Naomi's art exhibition is next weekend. She'll skin us alive if we miss it." He laughed. "I wouldn't dare." Daphne moved to the window and pulled the curtains slightly, watching as their newly hired staff arranged garden chairs for a small launch later that afternoon. The unveiling of the Okanwa Khalifa Wellness Center, a project that would offer free physical therapy and mental health support for underserved families. Maurice rolled up behind her and slid his arm around her waist. "You built all this," he said. "No," she replied. "We did." They stood in quiet for a moment, just watching. "I used to think love was for people with less baggage," she whispered. "But I was wrong." Maurice kissed her temple. "Love is for the brave, and you're the bravest woman I know." She turned to face him, their daughter babbling in his arms. "What now?" she asked. "Now," he said, "we live, we love, we raise our daughter, and every time someone doubts us," he smiled, "we show them what grace looks like."